Welcome to the RaceGuru Thunder Hour, brought to you, as always, by the Elite Plus Network and FantasyGuru.com. I am Rich, I told you so, Nascar Maletto, and yes, I'm going to remind folks I was right about a few things, and NASCAR Brass has it wrong. And with me, as always, because he's always here, because sometimes I'm not, but Sean is always here, the man, the myth, the legend that's normally behind the dark curtain, out in front of the camera, as always, to join us on the RaceGuru Thunder Hour, Sean Engel. Please give Sean a follow at SeanE247. Remember, that's SEAN for Sean, the right way to spell it. No, just kidding. I understand there's multiple ways to spell. I'm just partial to SEAN because it's short. I prefer it that way.
It's
Sean's
nice
here as
to
always.
the point.
It is. So be sure to follow him on X. Do not follow me on X. Sean, great to have you back. I did not check any new promos. Are there any new promos we need to promote here real quick? Because I know with football season upon us, there is going to be wheeling and dealing all over the place here very soon. There always is. So where are we at, man? Hit us with what we got. I want to make sure everyone knows to go over to FantasyGuru.com, click subscribe, and see what's there.
Yeah, that's a good first step in order to keep up with all our content here at FantasyGuru.com. But you can still go over and get the MVP package for $80 for the whole year. I believe there is also some other early bird pricing options that are available for MLB at a reduced rate if you only want the MLB content, because we're already right in the thick of it for MLB, and before we know it, football is going to get here. So it's all about building that bankroll in order to be ready for football season when it comes here in just a few months. And that's going to creep up before we know it.
I hate to break it to you, Sean. Football season is here. I don't know if you've gone into the NFL seasonal dynasty chat, but yeah, football season's kind of here. Just we don't want to make it too well known, but it's here.
Yeah, pretty much if you're hardcore enough, it's already been started.
Yeah, yes. There's been a lot of questions in the Discord, man. We got a lot going on. Lots of drafting, lots of trading. We, heck, I saw videos of Browns practice where they're doing races, man. You know, so. And hey, Jen had some very interesting MLB betting stuff that I shared with Ray. So be sure to check out the Major League Baseball stuff. Ray has been dropping both bets and fantasy content. And I got to tell you, man, I'm pretty sure Ray's taught me more about baseball than I ever knew. And he's probably forgotten more than what he taught me. You know what I mean? Like he's just he is a baseball guy. I mean, I don't think people understand how good of a player he was back in the day and his knowledge. So hat tip to Mr. Ray Flowers.
Very much. Hat tip to the Oracle himself, Ray Flowers. So
right.
Go and check out his content over there. We also have MVP, Platinum, VIP, and all-in packages. If you want all the sports together, be sure to contact support@fantasyguru.com. They'll let you know about all the latest and greatest promotions and discounts, as long as you get on their nice side. So be sure to send them a nice message. Tell them that we all sent you, and be sure to go sign up today and start winning.
I am not suggesting this, and I will deny it. But if you offer somebody some bourbon, I don't know, they might do you some favors. Just a thought.
Yeah, different kinds of drinks like that do go over pretty well in this community, I've heard.
Yeah, just tossing that out there. Are we good on the plug, Sean? Or do we want to? Is there anything else we need to hit?
I think we've hit all the necessary plugs that we've got for now. So let's get right into we should say recapping the craziness and wildness that was Texas Motor Speedway.
So let me ask you this, because, all right, a little background. You know this, Sean. I know this. Part of the reason we have the stage cautions is a few things. They wanted to somehow give scoring for fantasy and everything else, some sort of breakup like we see in other sports. But the other part that's not talked about as much, which I think is really the driving force, cautions had basically disappeared in our races. And most everybody agrees the restarts are fun and exciting. Now, side note, I think it's gotten a little too extreme with this new car. That's neither here nor there. The point being is we've had stage cautions, and there just hasn't been a lot of cautions. I mean, how many times did we go to a track, Sean? 6 cautions, 2 of which were the stage breaks, right? Or 5 cautions, 2 of which were the stage break. Yeah. All 3 races this weekend, that wasn't. We had organic caution after organic caution after organic caution. I mean, when I say organic, there was no just faux debris like we used to see 30 years ago. There was no some just BS. It was getting drawn out. We're not sure. And I'll be the first to admit, people can call it race manipulation. I had no problem when NASCAR would throw kind of this weird caution after fuel stops, right? I don't want it when it was during fuel stops because it would change the whole format of the race, or right before. You know what I mean? But you can tell things were getting long and drawn out. You'd see the green flag pit stops, things would settle down, and there'd just be a magic debris caution that we couldn't see. I'll be the first.
And yellow.
And yeah, I didn't hate it, buddy. I didn't. I was okay with it. I felt like, this is a good time to let me go take a leak, get some snacks. Let's regroup. Let's see how the pit stops worked out. Some guys probably end up a lap down. This is an okay thing. What I don't like is 15 to go and we got a caution, right? Stuff like that. We didn't have that. I mean, we did have late cautions, but Sean, I don't know was there 16, I want to say, in the Cup race?
It definitely was in the double digits. I do remember that much.
I mean, all three races. And I want to remind folks, the trucks in Xfinity are like a half to just over 2/3 or right around 2/3 of the Cup events. So to have the same type of thing there, is it a good, in your opinion, is it a good thing or a bad thing that we had so many cautions and it wasn't like a big one, right? I mean, it was a bunch of little ones. There were some bigger ones, but I mean, do you think, Sean, that it's a problem when a track is that difficult to drive, or do you think this is good as a fan?
I feel kind of on both ends of the spectrum here, because on one hand, I think the drivers should be challenged, because when the drivers are challenged, that's what's going to bring good racing and good action right there. That's what's going to also influence passing. That's what's going to influence drivers trying to do different kinds of things that are going to be incredible to watch. But on the other hand, though, when you make it too challenging, though, and nobody is going to be able to drive and you don't let the race breathe, that kind of also puts a damper on it, in my opinion, a little bit, too, when it happens too often.
I definitely think there's a happy medium. I will go so far as to say, I wish we had more tracks like this and we got rid of stage cautions. Okay. Had we not had a couple of stage cautions, we probably had not only 2 less cautions from the stage breaks, but I would argue probably 2 other cautions just from some of the restarts we had where things always get kind of turned into a melee. But I'm with you. Especially at the end, yes. But I'm with you. I'm okay with it. And we've seen this the last couple of years from Texas. We talked about it last week. I miss it. I miss the random blowing motors in a random caution. I miss the random cut tire in a random caution. I do think it's hard to hold the attention when it's green flag the whole time. I mean, I'll never forget being at the Coke 600 one year, and I kind of fell asleep in the stands. And it's a long event, and it had been green flag after green flag. And I told my grandpa, I just want a few more cautions than last year. He says, "Damn it, Richie, don't you dare say that. Now it's going to be a show." Well, he was right. They set a record for cautions and length of race and all of that. And it was an absolute nuts thing. And I went, well, now we've been here for both extremes, and I kind of like something in the middle. Like, it's not great on either side of either extreme. Although that said, I got to wonder how much of the wrecking was out of stubbornness. And what I mean by that is stubbornness by the tracks to not get rid of the bumps. Like, we've heard about the bumps forever in turn 4. This is where notoriously all this stuff happened. And some of it happened, in turn 2 just from the aero stuff, right? We heard that. But the aero stuff is a thing everywhere we go. We didn't have this at Vegas. We didn't have this at Miami, right? So the bumps are definitely playing into it. And you and I both know this. Are you going to be comfortable? Are you going to be happy having a comfortable riding car that's maybe a 10th place car and getting over the bumps well? Or are you going to push to make your car as fast as possible and expect your driver to handle the bumps better?
Well, you're going to want to try to do whatever it takes in order to get you to victory. That's what, if I'm in a driver's shoes, that's what I'm going to be aiming for. And the other, yeah. And the other thing to also remember regarding this track is it's kind of like a Darlington in the sense that each pair of turns is a little bit different from each other, and you're not going to have your car perfectly tailored for both turns, no matter what you do.
And it's funny because since that repave, 2 was always so treacherous before. It was always kind of a little weird. And immediately after the repave, that didn't change. And now as the bumps have gotten worse and worse, from at least I haven't driven over them. That's what the drivers are saying, right? Turn 4 has just turned into Calamity Corner. And funny enough, I called it that in the article. And Mike Joy, true to form, Calamity Corner. He said it right there on TV again. I don't remember which number of caution it was, but hat tip, Mike Joy. I stole that from you. So to hear you say it live on TV, I appreciated it, man. That was awesome.
Rich is validated. So there you go.
Well, it's not even that. It's just, I love that term and the fact that he pulled it out again. And I think he used it last year. It really was that way. It was a little aggressive on the cautions to the point that it burned us out, I think. But I got to tell you, Sean, I would much rather have 14, 15 organic cautions like we had than when we go green flag damn near the whole race.
Yeah. At the very least, you can say that almost all the cautions felt organic within the racing activity. So
100%.
Credit where credit
now,
is
I will say
due.
this. It sucks from a betting perspective.
Yes, it does.
We when races are almost all green flag, start to finish, we do really well on the betting and fantasy side of things. When it gets this way, it's nearly impossible because we talked about before the show. Bowman was on his way to a top 5 after battling all day. He gets collected, right? Carson Hocevar got in over his head after getting in the back and took out a couple of drivers, right? Ty Gibbs got collected in something that really wasn't his fault.
Bubba Wallace. He was running for top 5, and then he lost control of his car, hitting the wall.
Stuart Friesen on Friday's race was doing everything we talked about, everything I pushed in the article. He even almost got taken out earlier in the race, saved it. Wasn't his fault, but he saved it. Then gets collected again and just slammed into the wall and destroyed the truck, right? That's tough to bite. Now, where I'm going with this, though, NASCAR wants parity, right? And they like the idea that all these cars are the same at the cup level and we're nose to nose all the time. But, Sean, didn't this race give us parity because of all the chaos?
Truly, because really it became a track position race where if you were towards the front where you were able to get more of that cleaner air, your car was going to handle better, you were going to move faster, and you were going to remain out front. Unless you basically gave the drivers behind you enough air that if their car was naturally faster, they were going to take advantage of that and get past you. And we saw that with our race winner, Joey Logano, when he got past Michael McDowell. There were just a few laps to go. So there you go.
Well, McDowell putting it in the wall didn't help his cause either. Boy, was he overdriving it. You could tell he was pressing, man. There was so much cheering, hoping to see McDowell up there. And here again, we had a bunch of cautions to get to the point where McDowell was up there. And to your point, track strategy, it's 2 tires. McDowell was out there on 2 tires, which is what got him up front. Had we not gotten the last 3 cautions, McDowell probably wins that race. I don't really doubt that, to be completely upfront with you. But we got the cautions. And, hat tip to Fuzzy as we were talking in the Discord and before the show with you, Sean. Fuzzy nailed it. It took 5 cautions and a bunch of wrecks for Joey to get the win, So I guess where I'm going with this is, hey, NASCAR, maybe this was a little extreme, but you took away a race from Texas and now people are clamoring to get it back. This car, Texas, it kind of works. I don't know it works everywhere. I'd love to see this car just on 1.5 mile tracks, and I'd like to see more tracks do what Texas did. Texas took it upon themselves, said, look, we're tired of hearing a cookie cutter. We're going to make our track unique. Kentucky did something similar. It's a shame we don't go there much. But we'll see. I'm where the name came from is I'm pretty sure NASCAR is tone deaf based on the conversation with Michael Waltrip and Denny Hamlin. So that's where I'm coming from. If people don't know what that is, basically Michael Waltrip said after Talladega, the casual fan, which is most of our fans, doesn't know when we can't pass. Denny basically said, you're an idiot. 10% of our fans may be casual fans. The other 90% are pretty smart and savvy, and they're not buying the BS. But that tells me NASCAR brass is apparently buying their own BS. I hope they learned this lesson from this race. I don't know if they know what to do to mimic it. Like we talked about Bristol. We had a great Bristol last spring, and what have we had since then, Sean?
Not good racing. I'll say that much. racing that just did not exactly leave too much of a great impression.
They're talking about taking away a Bristol. Bristol used to be the hottest ticket in town. You had like a 7-year waiting list to get tickets to the night race. Now they're like, we don't even need a second race. So I guess what I'm getting at is NASCAR wants parity, right? And I would argue that a track that's tough to drive and has the car on edge brings way more parity than having a car that's designed to be the same as everyone else. Not to mention, I think it's a better product for the fans. I'm with you, Sean. We don't need to have that many incidents, but let's be realistic. There are plenty of people that watch and that want to see the accidents. I've seen enough that I don't care to see the accidents, but I'll be honest. Watching Grant Enfinger and Stuart Friesen save their trucks and not bring out the caution. Watching, I can't remember, was it Reddick? Can't remember who did it in the Cup race. Somebody did it in the Cup race where they basically got sideways. I think they did bring out the caution. Maybe it was Kyle Busch. I think they did bring out the caution because the tail end got into the wall. But I enjoy seeing them struggle drive the cars, man. And
yeah,
I think it's a better product. And I like what Texas has done in kind of making it unique. To your point, you can't have everything symmetrical and set up the same. I don't know if that's really the answer everywhere. But frankly, Sean, if we're taking away races from Bristol because it's so bad. And now people used to gripe about Texas, so they took a race away. And now people are going, we need more races like Texas. Why? Because of all the high rates of incidents. And granted, it sucks from us from a betting standpoint. We do well when things are a little more predictable. But as a fan, no, I didn't want to see Joey win. But, Sean, it was an entertaining race.
Yeah, it did have its moments of entertainment. I will say this. I think ever since the next-gen car hit Texas, the track legitimately has gotten better. So
this car works on these mile and a half. It works on the mile and a half. I just, like you and I talked about before the show, I want 3 separate cars. I want one specifically for the super speedways. I want this one to be used on, the Poconos, the mile and a halves, the Michigans, that sort of stuff, and get us a car that has some horsepower and some oomph on the short tracks and the road courses and giddy up. I don't think the cost is going to be outlandish if you had dedicated for these types of things. You can do the schedule to give plenty of time to work on them. There is still plenty of overlap on these cars. You have these talented engineers that you basically have handcuffed on all these teams. You've stifled engineering and ingenuity and perseverance. I mean, you've stifled all the things that made, having talent like this in the garage important. And it's frustrating, I think. But that's all I got to say about Texas. Hit me with whatever you want, Sean.
Yeah, overall, interesting to finally see another Team Penske car back in the wins column there after they won the previous week with Cindric. Well, now it's Blaney's turn at some point to happen soon.
And he's been the fastest.
Yeah. It's true. And even then, Blaney had a chance to win this one, but just did not pull the right moves to do so. Well, it's a shame for Team 12, but they gotta keep working at it to win one of these at some point. Because if we keep getting different winners, that's gonna make them getting into the playoffs trickier and trickier as it goes.
It'll get there, man.
But really, I don't have too much to comment there. We saw Corey Heim won the truck race. We saw Larson in a substitute role win the Xfinity race. And then we had Logano win Cup. So 3 different winners for 3 different races. It all kind of speaks for itself right there. Don't really have too much more to say. So
fair enough. I'm good moving on, man.
Yeah. Let's get into the news stories of the week. Now, we have plenty to talk about here, so let's talk about the big one that was just confirmed within the last day or two. Homestead is back as the 2026 championship venue, and also, as a secondary confirmation, the championship is also going to rotate between different tracks starting in 2027 there. So we're getting Homestead back for championship weekend. That's exciting. Pumped for that.
My only complaint is Phoenix is still on the rotation. I get it. It's fine. You and I have talked about it before. Miami puts on a great show. Vegas is most definitely going to be on the list. We'd also got confirmation that Daytona and Talladega in Atlanta will not be on the list, which I find kind of funny and ironic, because I'm guessing the argument is they don't want a race that's notorious, or a track notorious for, unknowns, anyone can win type of thing, being your championship deciding race. But then I would argue that means your championship is decided by a very fluky and odd process anyway. So don't be mad that, if you use the track that people want to see, it just sort of amplifies that. But that's where I'm at with it.
I'm just going to say this, but without directly saying it, they did actually confirm what you just said, pretty much.
Right?
Without directly saying it, they basically said everything, but in those exact words. So that's essentially what it is.
So, like I said, this is why I'm on the told you so plan, man. They are openly admitting the stuff that we have discussed and complained about, right? And we're not alone. There's lots of other fans saying the same things, and honest analysts that are saying the same things. We're not paid by NASCAR like folks on the NASCAR channel, so we could say what we think, and it's the writing's on the wall. They admitted it, to your point.
And just one additional point to mention, because you didn't mention this when listing off the tracks that they said they weren't going to go to. They also said road courses are not where they're going to have it in the rotation either.
But not shocked, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's no shock. I will say this, though, too. I don't know if you saw it, but I do think that the way they announced this with that video between Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch, I don't know if you've seen that video where they kind of do a whole Back to the Future parody kind of thing. That was fun. That was awesome. And I want more of that, please.
The funny thing is people are like, what? These guys hate each other. So I'm on the fence of, do we want more of this? Because then it looks like Brad and Kyle don't hate each other, which, like I pointed out to someone on X, secret, their kids like each other and hang out, So, I mean, you forget these people are humans, and it's just like, you may hate the color of your neighbor's house, but if your kids play together, you don't go up to them and see like your house looks like. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for it. I'm with you, though. It's the fun personalities. That's the stuff we used to get, and it's all been kind of, again, stifled, if you will. So I'm with you. I thought that was fantastic. I don't know what's with all the Back to the Future stuff that's been floating around. Like, I keep seeing that meme from Wheel of Fortune. I keep seeing, memes with Michael J. Fox and the crew. So is there a new movie coming out that I didn't know about or something, or what?
I think people are just nostalgic for those movies, which I don't blame them, because that's a really good movie trilogy.
I enjoyed him as a kid, and I still enjoy him today. I've been an old movie kick myself. Like, I've watched Young Guns lately. I watched Unforgiven. I watched what is another old one I watched? I basically have just been rattling through old movies, man. When I say old, I guess 20, 30 years feels it's old. It doesn't feel old to me, but it's old.
That being said, I will say this. They were asking in that commercial there too. Let's find out. Does Denny still win a championship? And then
awesome.
And then at the very end, when they go back to the present, they're like, "What? Joey Logano is a 3-time champion? We have to stop this." I love that they could poke fun with other drivers. We need more of that.
We do. They've been talking about, Christopher Bell mentioned this, that they've gone 2 PC. Kevin Harvick made some off-the-cuff comment about we used to shoot guns and we don't anymore. Oh, at Texas, because they used to do the bang, 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 bang thing. Now they can't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore.
I mentioned this to a buddy of mine, and he got kind of frustrated. I said, I'm tired of all the fun being taken out of everything. Everyone gets butthurt over something. And here's the deal. 80% of the population can have no problem with it, and we're catering to the 20% that has a problem with it. And I'm not just saying NASCAR. That's everywhere. So I'm with you. Let's bring back some personalities. Let's bring back some, let them speak their mind. I mean, my gosh, imagine if Tony Stewart was coming up in today's NASCAR. I don't think he would have made it, man.
No, he would not have. He even has said as such himself.
And it's a shame, because I know plenty of people that were never Smoke fans that were like, I miss Tony Stewart in NASCAR. Agreed. Man, I've seen old sound bites from AJ Foyt. Man, I just watched one where he basically told him on the interview he was going to fire half the crew. No, we were fine with speed, but this broke that. That's unacceptable. I guess I need to make some changes. I mean, right there on national TV, man, you know? Oh, the good old days.
But yeah, the point is, though, it was very fun, and I actually really enjoyed seeing that.
That's
so
fair.
More of that, please.
All right, next.
All right, getting into next one is another big one that just recently got confirmed here. TNT announces their full broadcast team for their slate of 5 races coming up later in the year. So we're actually almost at the portion of the season where Amazon Prime is going to take over. That'll be much later in the month, I believe, when it gets towards Coca-Cola 600 time. So, yeah, but and I also have a nice little handy graphic ready. So I'm not sure if you've seen all of it, Rich, but here it is. A lot of names right there. The booth is shared between TNT and Amazon Prime, but some of the other contributors are different between the two. So what are your first thoughts as you see it here?
I'm not overly impressed. I'm not a big fan of Mamba Smith. I think he's kind of full of himself. So I'm just not a fan. I love Dale Jr., but the screaming in the booth is kind of tough. I can appreciate Jeff Burton not being in the booth. I do like Dale Jr. and Steve Letarte. I do feel like there's some back and forth there. I'm glad Larry Mack's involved. I'm a big Larry Mack fan. I think he is a master at his craft. I'm okay with the Jamie Mack, Parker Kligerman. Who is that with them?
That's Shannon Spake doing the studio.
I'm okay with that. There's times that I'm just not, we've seen him on the CW. It's been okay. Daniel Trotta, I'm all for. Alan Cavana's going to have to win me back over again. And Marty Snyder's been around forever, and he's just always kind of annoyed me, but he's not bad. I'm partial, Sean. I've been around. I miss Matt Yoakum. I think he was one of the best at what he ever did. I miss Dr. Dick Berggren. I miss Dr. Jerry Punch. I miss Alan Kowicki. I don't think any of these folks are on that level. I'm not shocked. I've never been impressed with the TNT broadcast. I'm sorry I'm being Mr. Negative.
You know what? As it is, I think I kind of prefer the Primes lineup a little bit more to TNT's. So in that sense, I can agree that I don't think this is the best lineup that they could have had, but I don't think it's the worst either. I think it's just all right. It'll get us through.
It'll get us through. I agree.
And it's only for 5 races too, so it's not like this whole setup's going to be there for too long regardless. So
which is another elephant in the room. You run 36 races. We got 5 here. We got 5 there. I love how Denny Hamlin a few weeks ago said, I don't even know what races. I record them because I like to watch them after I get home. I don't even know what channel they're on. And I'm a competitor. I mean, imagine that. It's like me swimming in college and being like, hey, they're live streaming all the swim meets this year. Awesome. How do I watch? Well, it depends. What state are you in? You're going to want this stream. Oh, when we go to this meet, you're going to have this stream. Wait, I've got to check. I don't even know. I mean, that's where we're at with it. And it's NASCAR being NASCAR.
Yeah, it's just them trying to get the best possible most amount of money from the TV deal, and that's what we ended up with. That's why it's spread out everywhere.
Which ends up more in NASCAR's pocket than any of the teams, which is why we have a lawsuit, by the way. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, 100% why that's happening. But you know what? Let's get into our next story right here, because I know you love hearing this name come up whenever he gets any announcements, but it is Jesse Love getting 2 more Cup starts in the RCR number 33. Kansas this week and Richmond in August. So you're like, why is he getting more races in the number 33 when you mentioned it last week? Well, I guess they might have heard you because he's getting 2 more. So there you go.
I'm glad to see it. I'm happy to see it. And actually, he was looking okay in the 62. They had some problems there, right? But look, you've heard me. I get to see 2 of my guys this weekend in the Cup Series, Sean. I mean, I've been griping about, and I'm not going to lie, man. I wanted to throw something at the TV when they were talking about Corey Hyman. He's having one of the best seasons ever. And I'm like, what about the last 2? Did you forget that he had a whole race lead going into the playoffs. Like he could have sat out an entire race and still been number one going into the playoffs. Did you guys forget that? And then they talked about, oh, it's nice to see this young man get some cup opportunities. He's going to be a cup winner one day. MFers, where have you been for the last 2 years? Come on now. This is your job.
Maybe, I guess they haven't been exactly watching it because it's not a part of their same network or broadcast team. I don't know.
Good point. Good point, man. I mean, we can't be watching the competition.
Think about it.
So we're going to have Corey Heim and Jesse Love in this week's race. I will argue that we're going to get a taste of some of the young talent coming up. Ty Gibbs is starting to round out. They're getting speed again, man. I know I've been kind of pushing that, but there is some young talent coming up that there is plenty of reasons. If NASCAR could figure out how to give these young drivers some equipment that they can actually drive and showcase their skills, we have a lot of young talent coming up that there's reasons to be excited about. When the Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlins retire, Brad, we've got guys coming up that can carry the torch if we let them show their personality. I love Sammy Smith being honest in the interview. I love that Christopher Bell was being open about that. But Sean, I do love.
Yeah, you're loving the love train right there. I have to also ask this question. With Jesse Love getting more and more cup starts, do you think they're starting to prep him for a cup ride within this next year or two? What do you think?
That's a good question because they've been doing the same with Austin Hill, right? Now,
yep.
RCR only has 2 spots. Now, Kyle Busch's contract is up at the end of the year. Austin Dillon made it very clear he wants Kyle Busch to stay and remain there. The question I have then, is Austin considering stepping away? Is all of a sudden, are we seeing Hill and Love getting more of these RCR starts because, Austin's gone to Pop and said, I've done the racing thing. I've won some big races. I'm just, especially after all the flack he caught last year, is he at the point of, hey, I'm good being a part-time driver. Let me take over this ownership thing.
Yeah, I mean, there has been rumors and discussions and speculation about different kinds of people wondering if Austin Dillon is going to step away and go to that ownership role. But then there's also the Kyle Busch aspect too, where we have to wonder, does Kyle Busch even want to stay with this team past this year? Or does he want to go to some other team?
Or did they give Kyle Busch an opportunity to buy into this team?
There's also that too. There's just a lot of questions. And then there's also the element, are they actually going to get a third full-time team starting next year, and who's going to drive it?
I was going to say, the other question is, what if they just add a third car? If they add a third car, there's no reason to say that Austin Hill won't get a shot and Jesse Love is still 2 years away, right? I mean, I think that's a very fair assumption, thought process. I mean, I don't think anybody is saying, let's put Jesse Love in a cup car tomorrow full-time, right? Nobody's saying that with Austin Hill, and he's got a lot more experience. I do think Love's more talented, but, it's taken him a little while to kind of figure it out here in the Xfinity series. I don't want to, I saw somebody taking heat because they were talking about Corey Day not taking over for Zilich while he was out. Day already had a ride, so it wouldn't have made sense. But like the gentleman who was a racer, he's in his 40s, said, we've got to get out of this habit of just pushing these young guys up too much. I don't think you all realize how we've ruined careers by pushing these guys too much too fast. There's nothing wrong with running a partial schedule and getting their feet wet. And Corey Day is going to get that. He's going to get that time. And there's no reason not to put a Kyle Larson in that 88 car and see what it's got. Dale Jr., took offense to the whole beating up on the Xfinity guys and said, run more races. Like, we want to, dance with you. And then he's like, yeah, and then we put him in our car.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I don't know. My gut feeling is there's probably a third car coming, but who's going to lose a charter? Who's looking to sell? Because right now I'm not aware of any. Is there one that's on lease that is going to given up or something?
Well, there is the whole situation with Rick Ware right now with their 2 charters. They're leasing one out to RFK, and then they got one of their own that they're currently using right now. So
RFK doesn't even have an official third one then.
Yeah, as it stands right now, and especially the interesting thing too that speaking of lawsuits, there is the one between Legacy Motor Club and Rick Ware Racing regarding a charter being sold to them for next year. So,
Oh, I didn't know about this lawsuit.
yeah, so
So they want to add a fourth car?
No, Legacy was trying to get a third team up and running. Car. They're at 2 right now with Eric Jones and John Hunter.
And Nemechek. Okay.
The whole thing with that, long story short, basically, Legacy and Rick Ware, Legacy put out the contract saying, oh, we're buying one of your charters for next year. And then Rick Ware kind of signed it, but then they're like, oh, wait, we didn't read the print. We thought it meant for 2027. So they kind of sued, and then both teams kind of went to court about that. So,
gosh, these charters, all the good they've supposedly brought, is, in my perspective, hasn't been good at all. It's been faux money that's been created that I don't even know if everybody's gotten the full value out of. This has just it's a circus. I don't even want to touch it at that point.
Yeah, so there was something going on there too. But other than that, though, it's interesting to consider what teams could sell another charter. Or maybe, what if this is just going to be an open team that's going to be run if it's a third RCR team?
In all fairness, we don't have enough cars at every track. The downside is you lose significant money. I mean, 30 to 40% race winning earnings. So from a sponsor perspective, you almost have to pay more in order to have as competitive a car, because any of the winnings that go back to the team, to the sponsor, to whoever, isn't going to be as high, because it's a non-chartered car. Again, why have the charters if you can't even fill the field? Part of the idea was the guaranteed spots, which we did the champions provisional, the whatever provisional, all these different things. Honestly, I guess I'm getting so old and finicky. If you don't qualify, you don't qualify, man. I mean, it is. Larson missed the whole race, got no points. And I understand it's a different scenario, but he still was one of the top 5 going into the playoffs. So this idea that you can't make the playoffs if you didn't qualify, I think is just horse pocky. So get rid of it. I mean, if you want this money and guaranteed, there's got to be a better way. And honestly, the guy who was the brainchild behind it's not even in the sport anymore. He's already ruined 2 other racing. He's ruined a team and a racing league. Rick Kaufman, he can EAD as far as I'm concerned. That is one guy that I would love to tell him to his face, I think he's a POS.
All right, fair enough. So, yeah, this whole charter thing is just bonkers, man. Hopefully something gets sorted out about this, and that way we can focus on the things like getting back to focusing on making the racing better rather than this charter circus that we're dealing with. But who knows what's going to happen with that.
So what's next?
We got ourselves a penalty report here with only one Xfinity team. The number 10 Xfinity Series team, that's Daniel Dyes at Kaulig Racing. The crew chief, Kevin Walter, is fined $10,000 and suspended for 1 race for 2 unsecured lug nuts found in post-race inspection. So, yeah, the 10 team in the Xfinity Series is going to lose their crew chief for the upcoming race at Charlotte. So, that right there, especially when you're like a rookie like Daniel Dye is in the Xfinity Series, losing your crew chief also can hurt a little bit more there too, I'd say.
Hopefully he's got a good relationship with the car chief.
Yeah, hopefully. But, that's the only penalty, the only major penalty that was recorded during the past weekend. So other than that, pretty clean.
Everybody else wrecked. I don't know how you were going to do measurements with everybody with wrecked cars, so there's that.
Fair enough. That's a pretty valid point right there.
I mean, honestly, they had at least 14 to 18 cars or vehicles in all the races that were damaged, so I guess you can bundle it up.
We're going to make this the last one for today here, even though there's other stuff on the list. We're going to save that for other weeks. But in the meantime, let's quickly go over this here too. where NASCAR themselves have confirmed that the 2026 Clash will remain in the United States. So there's a lot of rumors suggesting that it's going to be another year at Bowman Gray. So that's
I enjoyed it
what
at
we're
Bowman
looking
Gray.
at. So
I enjoyed it at Bowman Gray. At least it's a throwback to short tracks here. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. It's all the things they wanted. Let me say this, Sean. The obsession with these sports leagues going international, F off with it. I'm done. I'm over with it. Oh, we got to be here. We got to be there. Look, F1's popular in the world. You're not going to compete with F1. And I'm getting tired of American fans getting crapped on because these greedy owners and leagues just want to chase the almighty dollar somewhere else. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm over any, whether it's football, whether it's, I do like the international series for baseball, but that's a little different. Like we're actually having competition directly, with the West or the East or however they do that. That was a lot of fun. And it also traveled all over. But this obsession with, we got to run a race in Japan, or we got to run a race in South Africa, or we got to run a race over in Italy or wherever, just, I'm done.
I'll say this much, at least if it's an exhibition race and not like the main schedule, I'm kind of fine with that. Or if we wanted to make it more of an event where, say, kind of like how you mentioned with baseball, if we make it an international competition and we bring different drivers from all different
I'd be all for it.
Sports, though, from across the world, I'm for that idea.
Yes. That's a little bit like the IROC that people loved, right? Let's get Max Verstappen in a cup car, right? Let's get Kimi Räikkönen back in a cup car, Let's do some of this stuff. And maybe we do it at a road course race, a road course which is more commonly found across the globe, right? And we ask those guys to come in. So yeah, maybe NASCAR guys are out of their element on the road course, but at the same time, some of these other open wheel series folks are a little more at home on the road course and out of their element on the car. I'd be all for that. But this obsession with we got to be in this country and run this race here, I'm not down with it, Sean.
Like I said, I think if we can find ways in order to make it work within the confines of not upsetting the main schedule, which we've already got a decent enough balance with so far as the tracks and places we go to, and especially with how the teams are handling it, then I'm fine with doing it for something like an exhibition like the Clash.
Do it with the All-Star race.
Or, All-Star race. Same thing. I think All-Star race would be fine in order to do something like that with it too.
So, I don't know. I just take care of the people that are paying your bills, man. That's us. I hate to break it to you. That's us. So, all right. Well, we'll talk All-Star race next week, I assume, or the following week, because that is a mess. We need to dedicate about 20 minutes to cover the All-Star race. So I appreciate you not bringing that one up today.
Yeah, because the All-Star race is going to have a lot to it, and you know what? At the rate we're going, we might be just covering that when it becomes All-Star week. So
that's fair enough. So moving on, where we got next?
Well, we got ourselves previewing this week's race up next. So we get to talk about Kansas. So as we know, Kansas has kind of been growing into a fan favorite race venue now, especially ever since this next-gen car came into play. I mean, Kansas has been a great racetrack overall. So,
what has it brought us that some of the other ones haven't? Because I feel the same way you do, Sean. And I was going to say, it reminds me a little bit of Texas.
Yeah, except this way, you could know the drivers have a little more control with it too, so it isn't as outrageously crazy from like the track taking everybody out. It's got like a lot of racing grooves, so drivers can go anywhere and make passes, and it's kind of like a little bit like an in between Texas and Homestead in that regard, you could say.
That's fair, and I mean I do like it's wide. Turn 4. Ask Kyle Busch; he has a love-hate relationship with it. He can be fast there, and yet he's wrecked out of like half the races there. He'll tell you that openly. Clint Boyer ran well there once, his home track, the first time we're there, and he had nothing but a battle after that. Where I say it's kind of like Texas is we will get a little bit more of the accidents or the cautions than we have, say, probably at Miami or Vegas. but not to the level of Texas. But I feel like the last few years, especially your point, Sean, with the next gen car, we've had a lot more of those organic cautions and whatnot. I mean, even with the old car we did, turn 4 really, really screws with people. I'm assuming the wind comes into play, because I know we've talked about wind at that track before and which directions it's blowing. So, that'll play into it. So I am looking forward to this weekend's race. I think it'll be would you say it'll be a tamer version of Texas?
I'd say that most certainly would be at the very least tamer than Texas. So
Right.
I don't know if I'd call it the tamest track out there of the 1.5 miles.
No,
it definitely is not that.
But what I'm saying is, it's kind of like, when we compare football players where, they drafted Alvin Kamara light. Like, it reminds you of Alvin Kamara. It's got some similarities, but he's not really Alvin Kamara, right? That's kind of how I see this. Very different. I mean, Kansas doesn't have the tighter turn like Texas does, and the two different degrees of banking in each corner. I believe it's got some progressive banking. I'll be looking that up later, but I think it's a progressively banked track. But it has produced some incidents. I mean, we've seen plenty of, again, organic incidences. I probably need to stop saying that word, but what I mean by that is it's not created. It's not forced. It's just stuff that happens. So I'm looking forward to it. Did you know in the next gen car, we only have one driver with 6 top 10s at Kansas? In 6 races?
Yes, I do know about that, actually. So do you want me to name the driver, or should you
go for it? Go for it. If you got it, go for it, bro.
Well, the only driver in order to finish in the top 10 in the last 6 Kansas races is Denny Hamlin. But I'll also do you one better, though, and say that he's not the only driver technically in order to finish in the top 10 within the past 3 years at Kansas. There's one other one.
There is. And there's also 2 drivers that have 5 top 10 finishes in the 6 races. And I believe that guy with 3 in the last 2 is in that group of 2.
I believe you are correct about that.
And that would be, is that one Kyle Larson? Or is it Christopher Bell?
Well, Larson, he ended up finishing 26th in his last appearance at Kansas.
So but it's not him.
But the 6 races before that, though, has been 8th or better every time, including 2 victories. So
yes, I would say he had 5, and Bell had 5 top 10s, but he has no wins in those 6 races. Well, Larson does have one.
That's true. And the only time within the past 7 races that Bell missed finishing in the top 10 was May 2023, when he ended up finishing 36th due to being involved in an accident.
Okay, so I was on point a little bit, Sean. We're cooking in the same kitchen here, buddy. So I guess my point on that is a little bit of unexpectedness is coming our way, right? Because you and I, usually the first thing we look at is how many top 5s, top 10s, especially on the new car where we're at. And there's usually, at a lot of the tracks, we have 3-4 guys that have 3 for 3 or 6 for 6 in top 10s in the new car. And at Texas, we didn't have anywhere close to that, right? We talked about that last week. And when I pulled up the data for this week, I was like, oh, I'm kind of shocked. We don't have 2 or 3 drivers with 6 and another 3 or 4 with 5, right? Nope, we've got 1 and 2, and then we got a group of the last 6 that have 3 or 4 top 10s. But I got to tell you, Sean, there wasn't a lot of people with wins. The wins, the guys in the top 5s and top 10s, they were not necessarily the ones collecting the wins either.
Yeah, true. You get a lot of drivers that are consistent at the track, but not always getting the victory, you could say.
True story. In fact, one of the guys I was shocked. Bell's had very good numbers here. No, I couldn't find a win, not in the last 6 anyway.
Nope. And in fact, actually, Joe Gibbs Racing, you look towards the last 6 races there, they've only got the 1 win with Hamlin.
Right, but Toyota had 2 with Reddick and Wallace, correct?
And if you even want to go further back, Kurt Busch got his last career Cup win with 2311 at this track as well.
I forgot that was a Toyota. I totally forgot. I saw that and I forgot his was a Toyota. But since then, it's been the Hendrick show, right? I mean, since Toyota last won there with Bubba, I think Bubba was the last Toyota to win there. It's been the Hendrick show. Ross. Ross won there last fall, but the 2 races before that was Byron and Larson.
Yes.
Or Elliott and Larson. Byron and Larson.
No, actually, Byron didn't win. No,
Oh, so it was Elliott and Larson.
It wasn't Elliott either.
Man, I'm getting all twisted up here. All right, go through. Ross won in the fall. Larson won in the spring. Who won before that?
So September 2023 is what you want to know. That was when Reddick won.
Yes. And the race before that was Bubba, correct?
May 2023, that was when Hamlin won.
No, but the fall race between Hamlin's win and Reddick's win, Bubba won in the fall, correct?
No,
No?
that's incorrect because Bubba won in September 2022. So he won before Hamlin won there.
Okay, so it was Bubba, Hamlin, Reddick.
And then it was Larson last year within the closest finish in NASCAR history based on timing.
And then Ross Chastain.
Yep. That is correct. And then before Bubba was Kurt Busch. So There you go.
All right. My bad. I was getting some things twisted up, so I apologize, folks. I do a lot of stuff from memory at times, and sometimes my memory fails.
It happens to the best of us. But you know what? Before we get too far ahead and off track here about getting on track with Kansas, it's funny enough, you can also be aware of the DFS strategy right here, which is you definitely want to go for dominators if you can. So fitting maybe one or two drivers that can lead a bunch of laps, that's going to be big here. It's a bigger deal at this track compared to Texas this past weekend. Whereas where Texas, you may have wanted maybe two or three drivers.
Right.
Here, you might have a more likely chance of having one or two just dominate the entire race overall. And we've seen it within the next-gen car at Kansas. And you do want to also look for some place differential because this track is easier to pass compared to Texas for sure, too.
Clean air is king is what we're going to find out this week. It's going to be – because Kansas, I don't think tears up the tires as much either. I think it's going to be pit. It's going to be pit strategy, and whichever cars are up front, they're going to do everything they can to stay up front. I will not be shocked to see multiple two-tire stops. I won't be shocked to see the same, someone try to stay out, short pit before a stage break or something like that and catch a wave around. Clean air is going to be king, and we're going to see every team do everything they can to get there.
Yep. In other words, it's another track position race, which a lot of these races seem to be becoming. So there you go.
I mean, even the super speedways, right? With the fuel mileage and the games they play. That's why I said it's at least this car puts on a decent race at these tracks. But I got to tell you, man, it's everywhere else. It's just
not great, as you can say. As far as the betting is concerned, it's going to be a little bit more of a standard strategy, getting back to more of a regular strategy to address. We're not going to be spreading it through a bunch of different drivers like, say, Texas or even Talladega. We're going to stick to probably just a couple at a time, maybe 4, sometimes 5 or 6 if we know there's a lot of drivers that can compete for the win. But generally, you want to spread it to just a few drivers. Some of the favorites are more likely to actually stay there because they've been good at this track. And teams that are good at this track will remain good at this track. So that's something to keep an eye on, too. This is also not a bad week in order to do something like top 10s or head-to-head bets or even manufacturer bets. This is a more betting-friendly week, you could say.
Yes, it shouldn't be as crazy, so I'm ready.
Yes, we're all going to be ready for this. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. Let's get into the list of the notables and the part-timers for this week's race here, Rich. I know we got ourselves an interesting list for the trucks this week here. How about you read us off with that?
You got it. Brandon Jones is back in the number 1 Tricon truck. He had a disappointing run at Texas. Nathan Bird is in the 02 Young's Motorsports machine. Corey Dennison is back with the number 2 Rome Brothers Racing, which I got to give a little hat tip to Cody Dennison. He looked pretty decent. I was kind of shocked. William Byron will be piloting the 07 Spire truck, along with teammate Carson Hocevar in the number 7 Spire truck. Do keep your eye on both of those gentlemen for this weekend. Morgan Baird?
Morgan Baird, yeah.
Morgan Baird will be in the number 22 Rome Brothers Racing truck, and Luke Baldwin is back for Thor Sport Racing in the number 66. And Xfinity is off, and take us home with the Cup guys this week because I'm excited.
Yeah, there's only 2 names in Cup that are not normally there, but they're both pretty interesting names. We got Jesse Love in the number 33 for Richard Childress Racing, which we mentioned earlier on. And then the other name is Rich's guy right there, Corey Heim. He's
Heim time, baby.
Yeah. So Heim is in the number 67 for 2311 Racing, which is going to mark now the first time that 2311 will have 4 cars in the same Cup race. So that's going to be wild right there.
That is kind of crazy. Speaking of charters, right? So before we go on, though, I want to give a hat tip to everyone at fantasyguru.com. Make sure you head over to the website there at fantasyguru.com, click subscribe, look around, check for a package that works for you. We have individual packages if you're just into, a sport or two. We've got an all-inclusive package. We've got an all-inclusive betting DFS package. The MVP that Sean mentioned earlier gets you DFS and betting for all the sports that aren't football or baseball. I understand hockey and basketball isn't going on, but hey, it covers you for 12 months. So it'll cover the entire hockey and basketball season as we go into 2026. And if you don't find one that works for you, do what Sean said. Reach out to support at fantasyguru.com and tell them what you're looking for.
Indeed. And don't forget, you can get the MLB content over at fantasyguru.com as well, too, which you definitely going to want to get in on that because that hasn't been in full swing. And the MLB bets have just been on fire. So
they really have. All right. So should we get into some of the drivers we want to watch this week here, Mr. Sean?
I think we shall. So let's start off with the top priced options that we have this week right here. So actually, I did not really get a chance to see your list until right now.
I did that on purpose, to be honest with you, Sean. I was trying to F with you a little bit.
Okay. I'll make a note of that.
Hey, I gotta keep it interesting for you sometimes, bro. I gotta make sure I stay unpredictable, or you'll start getting bored with me. I know this.
All right. Definitely noted. But yeah, we have 2 of the same 3 drivers here. So let's mention these 2 out of the way first. Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin. Both of them former winners at this track. Both of these drivers are very good at this track. We know Denny, he's been pretty solid at the intermediates this year, but I don't think anything can be said about how good Kyle Larson has been at this track type this season. He's been the fastest guy on these kinds of races, so we know he's going to be fighting for the win.
This season is not anywhere near as dominant as that run a few years ago, right? I mean, where he just had wins after wins after wins. But I will say this, I am more impressed with Kyle Larson this year than those years because he hasn't been checkers or wreckers. And he has been making a point to finish races near the front, even when you're not expecting it. And to your point, he's been really fast anyway. He's been the fastest at a bunch of these places, especially the 1.5 miles, to your point. So I'm with you, man. And I don't know what Toyota was doing last week, but I will caveat the Denny Hamlin thoughts here. If we see another 3 Gibbs teams have engine problems this weekend, it's time to get concerned and start pivoting from a betting and DFS perspective until we see some sort of consistency of it not happening. The fact that 3 out of the 4 teams were impacted by it, and honestly, the 4th team, we didn't get to see what would happen because they got involved in an incident. And ironically, it's Ty Gibbs that's not having the engine problems after last year. They were the ones blowing chocolate milk all over the track.
Yeah.
Because my buddy was asking me about it. I said, look, the Toyotas run a higher RPM. So I don't know if they are starting to just try to tweak it a little more to make up the difference because I feel like they're behind. Both Ford and Chevy came out with motors, in the last 2 years? I know Ford did a couple of years ago because you and I talked about that's when we started seeing the improvement with RFK and Joey, because at the 1.5 miles, they were struggling. So I don't know if Toyota is trying to maybe tweak it a little too far. But I got to tell you, Sean, Denny's incident doesn't bother me. He was fast last week. I expect him to be fast this week. But I got to tell you, if we have some more engine problems out of the Joe Gibbs specifically camp, This could be
Yeah.
a rough few weeks for them. They'll get it fixed, but it'll be a rough 3 to 4 weeks before they get it under control.
Yeah, truly. And I still wonder because we never usually see those failures with the other two Toyota teams in particular,
Right.
too. So, and
Right.
we know that they all use TRD motors.
So what is Gibbs doing to tweak it a little differently is what it comes down to for me. You know what I mean? So I liked your Chastain pick. You didn't mention it, but your third guy was Ross Chastain.
Yes.
Lay it on me because I was very close to picking Ross Chastain, and I'll give you my logic on why I went elsewhere.
Well, my whole logic with Ross is he's the most recent winner at this track. He's been very consistent when it comes towards races within this track, and he is only one of only three different drivers here, and we've already mentioned one of the other two to be top 20 in all the races in the next-gen car at Kansas. So right there, Ross has been very consistent. The last time that you have to look back towards Ross finishing outside the top 20 at this particular track was when he was driving with Premium Motorsports in 2019. So that's quite a ways back right there. And really, there's a whole theme with Ross Chastain, and you can argue with Trackhouse Racing as a whole this year, but especially Chastain. They haven't been doing very well in qualifying. He's not been qualifying at all, but he grinds through races and then ends up getting massive amounts of place differential and basically helps make the optimum lineup usually on some of the weeks this year. And I think that we're going to probably see something like that happen again because Ross has even admitted, even in qualifying and during the past race weekend, that he does not know how Trackhouse is not finding the speed during qualifying days, only to find it during race day. And it's been a theme all season long. So
both cars.
Yeah, truly. And you know what? He's been pretty solid at the mile and a half as a result. And let's not forget, he did just finish runner-up behind Joey Logano this past weekend, too.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And that's what honestly had me thinking him is I was like, we're starting to finally see him get some of those finishes again. It's really been a struggle. It feels like for Trackhouse the last, probably end of last year into this year. Like they just haven't, they started out pretty good last year, but they just haven't had the speed from 2 years ago. So that's where I'm kind of pivoting. Whereas I feel like Bell's kind of maybe due for a win. That's where I'm coming from with Christopher Bell. He's had the consistent finishes here, top fives, top tens, no wins, right? Yet his teammate has. We know that Martin Truex, if another former teammate of his has run well here, he also had solid history here. So that's why I'm going Christopher Bell. Honestly, the angle of the place differential is kind of big for fantasy purposes. So maybe this is a week where, hey, you use Ross and DFS, but maybe you put a top 5 bet, top 10 bet, race win bet, something like that on Christopher Bell. Because I do think, there's a win coming for him here. He's already had 3 this year, so I'm not saying he's due for one. They definitely didn't have a lot of speed last week, so there's reason to be concerned. But like you pointed out, the history for Christopher Bell here has been solid. And I think Christopher Bell should be one of our perennial favorites for the championship this year anyway. So anytime I see a driver like that, anytime we go to a bread and butter track, they're going to be on my radar.
100% agree with you. And just so you know, I did also throw Ross Chastain in there over Christopher Bell just because I wanted to have a top priced option that isn't at the top of the board. Ross will save you some money if you use him.
He will. He will. Bell, Hamlin, Byron, Blaney, and Larson are all at the top. So, if you're looking at using 2 of those guys, you're going to have to get much cheaper somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think Ross is a great alternative towards those other drivers there, too. I also do agree with the Christopher Bell call. In fact, actually, my third slot was between Ross and Christopher Bell. So I was between those 2 drivers.
So we had the same 4 guys. So, because it was between Ross and Bell, and I just went with more of a gut shot on Bell. I like your angle on the cost, though, Sean. So, look, for all intents and purposes, we're in agreement on this tier.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say so. The mid-tier is a little more interesting, you could say, because we didn't agree as much here. So
no, but in all fairness, Sean, the guys, and you'll get your names here. At least one of the two guys that we differ on here. I get where you're coming from. I'm just having a hard. I need to get over this bias on Mr. Alex Bowman. I really do.
Okay, so first of all, we're both on Bubba Wallace. That's the driver that we have in common. Bubba's been extremely fast at this track. He has some pretty solid history overall. This is a place he's won at before, so you know he's going to have confidence. And that 23 team has been running faster than ever at this point of the season overall. So I think they may be one to watch as it stands. But as far as Alex Bowman is concerned, remember when we were talking earlier about the only drivers to finish top 10 in all of their starts in the next gen car, and then you mentioned Denny Hamlin, and then I mentioned there's one other that technically has as well. Well, that other was Alex Bowman.
Bowman?
He may have. The thing about him that's kind of an asterisk is that he missed one of those races.
Right.
But all the other ones, he finished in the top 10 in the next gen car. So he has 5 top 10s and 5 starts. And if you really want to go back even further, you go all the way back to the top 20. He only has one finish worse than 11th in that span. So that's covering 9 races. Actually, wait, even if you go even further back to 12 races, he still only has one finish worse than 11th in that span at Kansas.
And he's had speed. I mean, he worked his way up. It looked like a bad day coming for him last week. And raced, wasn't pit strategy, raced his way up into the top 6. We've seen the speed beef. In all fairness, you and I were talking before the show. I think Bowman's shown more speed than Elliott. I understand Elliott has the better average finish and has the better overall finishes and the better points. But I got to be honest, if we're talking just from a speed standpoint, the 48 to me has looked better than the 9. So I kind of like I said, I've got this bias of he's meh. You know, I don't no disrespect, Alex Bowman. I've said you've earned the ride. You deserve the ride. I am adamant that Hendrick got back on track because of the testing you did as a test driver. I think you were a huge help there. I just feel like it's hard for me to get excited because I don't see you dominating races and really working your way through the field. But as Sean pointed out, the qualifying's been kind of suspect at times, and you have worked your way through the field. So you're convincing me on Bowman. Like I said, I clearly have a blind spot bias for him that I just need to get past.
Well, my other part of the logic is how he's just priced up this week. He's under 8K on DraftKings. And you can tell me that if you're going to be able to get a Hendrick driver for under 8K, wouldn't you want to take that?
Agreed. Well, that's my theory on another driver we'll talk later. It's not 8K, but 7K, same difference. So I'm with you. And then you had Ryan Preece. Sell me on Ryan Preece because that one I did not see coming. Is it strictly pricing?
Well, part of it does have to do with the pricing because he is actually fairly cheap for that tier, $7,100 on DraftKings. And then when you look back on FanDuel, he's only $5,800, which is also very cheap over there too. Cheap. But Ryan Preece, you look back towards his finishes, he has a lot of finishes with positive place differential at Kansas in particular, with all the different teams that he's driven for. So that's another angle that I have. And on top of that, similarly to Alex Bowman, Preece has surprisingly been solid at the 1.5 miles this year, whether it's gaining positive place differential or in the case of Las Vegas, he finished in the 3rd position. So that right there is noteworthy to me, even if it was
I agree
that got him there.
And we both had Bubba, as you said. I was leaning Chris Buescher, and I'm really rethinking it because part of my thinking on Chris Buescher was because of the last couple of races here. That said, last couple of races or few races this season, both him and Brad Keselowski had just not been good. Now Buescher has been basically top 10. We got burnt on the top 10 bet. We both had Buescher this past week for a top 10 bet, and honestly, he was basically in the top 10 all race long until he got involved with that wreck. Where I'm a little twisted up is I like your angle because, we always say in fantasy, chase points, not finishes. That's great if your guy finished 2 spots ahead of the other guy. But if he doesn't get 15 points of place differential, then you just lost on that lineup. So chase points, not finishes. So I think Preece is a smart call. But I got to ask you, Brad Keselowski at 7,000, like that is tough to ignore. And I know it's not like he's like fantastic here. But my Lord, Sean, at $7,000, I feel like that's just downright disrespectful.
It is disrespectful, but at the same time, with how he's just not been able to get the finishes out there at the same time, and that 6 team has just been off on speed this season in particular. Like the other 2 RFK drivers, you can at least tell that they've been able to get some speed out of their cars, but Brad, for some reason, has just not been able to be right there with them all the time.
And when they do find speed, they get wrecked. We have had 3 or 4 races this year where the 6 car was looking like the faster of the other 2. Texas was one. He was looking good at Texas. He was looking good at Dega, which is you can't really use that one. But if I remember correctly, Darlington, he also showed some speed. But he got straight up wrecked. Well, at Dega, he kind of did the poor pitting to wreck it. But he got straight up wrecked this week. I just found the pricing so odd for me to not like Brad with Ryan Preece $100 more. $100 is nothing from that perspective, but it just was an interesting thing from that angle. I didn't choose Brad. In all fairness, as much as the pricing was low, I still didn't go there with Brad. I guess I would. It's $100 more than what we consider value, but he's priced low enough for me that I would put him in that tier. But I'm back on the Gibbs bandwagon, and I know this is going to sound crazy. I pushed him hard last week. Folks, before we even saw practice, we were pushing him hard. He was one of the fastest cars in practice, one of the fastest cars on all the lap averages, was one of the fastest cars during the race, ran top 5 for the entire first stage, ran top 5 for most of the second stage, and they did the little pit deal. And then he got involved in a wreck too. Ty Gibbs has finally shown speed everywhere for the last 5 weeks. So that's the angle I'm going. No, his history here is not great, but he's been fine at 1.5 mile tracks, whether it's trucks, Xfinity, or Cup, as we've seen. Some of the struggles last year was more related to equipment. So this is more of a contrarian play, in my opinion, Sean. I don't think a lot of people will be on Gibbs. It's not like he's priced down. His price, if anything, is a little high. This is me saying it with my chest. I still went in on Ty Gibbs.
You know what? As a contrarian option, I don't mind the call there, Rich. And also your Chris Buescher call I kind of like overall, too. I was considering him a little bit as well for my lineup, but especially because I think Buescher is like the kind of driver you can rely on to be top 15 and maybe sneak into the top 10, which I think for the price point is just good enough right there. And regarding Brad, I just want to see a little bit more about where he's starting before I fully lock in Brad. But I do have a slight eye on him too, as well.
If he starts 28th again, like he did a couple of weeks ago, he's going to be chalky again at $7,000. So maybe the play is, like Mark likes to say, maybe a total fade of Brad to be different from everybody else will be in order if he qualifies that way. But it's going to be tough because I'm with you. I have a hard time not seeing Brad at least as a top 15 guy. So even with all their struggles, if he qualifies 25th, 28th, it's kind of tough to not consider. But I like your angle. Let's be real. The angle of chasing place differential matters. So I think that's important, what you pointed out with Bowman and Preece. So, but I tell you what, I'm interested to talk about the sleepers and bargains because, in my opinion, we're both on some of the same guys. And all the names we picked, we may be on the same guys, but I don't think these are a lot of household names that people are going to be like, you really are pushing these. Maybe if you've been in our Discord and reading the content, you will be, because you probably won't be shocked. But I don't think a lot of people are going to be expecting the names we're about to throw down here.
Oh, definitely not. I know you already mentioned that you put Brad K about this here.
But we talked about it. He's technically above our threshold. I just was saying at 7,000, our threshold was 6,900. At 7,000, he's so low that we're now on the cusp of listing. He's cheaper than Carson Host of our people. So there's a reason that I wanted to get his name mentioned in there.
Truly. So we're on a lot of the same drivers right here. So let's just talk about some of them here. I know we're both on your guy, Corey Heim there. We think Heim is coming for DFS this week, and I think this is a good week to use him. And, I think a lot of people won't remember, but this is not Heim's first Cup race at Kansas. He raced in this exact race 1 year ago in a substitute role for Legacy Motor Club.
And he didn't look bad, man.
Yeah.
He made Legacy look decent. Like, I was like, maybe it's not the soccer, or maybe it's the soccer club's fault, not the drivers. or vice versa. Maybe it's not the soccer club's fault and they need better drivers, because he had Legacy looking good last year, man. It wasn't like super, but I mean, I was like, Heim time. Just telling you. Heim time. See, Rocco likes Heim time. He's a big Heim fan.
And the other thing about Heim's start last year was he was actually on track for a top 15, borderline top 10 finish during that race, but then spun out on the last lap. So that's how he ended up in 22nd place. So he really was looking really good there. And what's interesting is he's in a 2311 car this time, which is, you could say, is better equipment.
It is better equipment, right? I mean, I don't think there's a doubt in my mind that it's better equipment. I'm excited to see him in 2311 equipment because we've talked about it. No disrespect for Riley Hurst, but I'll go on a limb and say if Heim was in that car, they'd be having some better finishes.
Yeah, I firmly agree with that too. No offense to Riley, because Riley, even though he's gotten some respectable finishes out of that car, which to his credit, because he's a rookie and does not have a lot of experience, finishing at least top 20 in some races this year is something if you're a new guy in a team like that. So.
But you know, and this is why I get so bent out of shape with some of these young guys and why I get so all in. When you see these guys hop into cars that others consistently were driving 10th or 15th, and all of a sudden it's a top 5 car, yeah, crew chiefs and there's other changes, and I'm not trying to downplay that. But a lot of times, especially at the Trucks Xfinity level, we're not seeing a ton of changes with the crew chiefs and the car chiefs and all of that. A little bit, you know, one might get promoted, whatever. Denny Hamlin, this is the reason I've always respected and liked Denny Hamlin. That 11 car that Joe Gibbs launched as a third car, we had Jason Leffler in there. We had J.J. Yaley in there. We had numerous drivers in there, and all these guys had some cool backgrounds. I mean, Yaley and Leffler had a great background in dirt racing, especially open wheels. They're very good at it. So there was high hopes. Yet they struggled, and yet the first race Denny Hamlin hopped in was the best that car had looked. Carl Edwards taking over for Jeff Burt. Jeff Burt really struggled the last little bit in that 99. Carl Edwards hops in it. Jeff Burton hated the chassis. I forgot what the name of it was. It ended up being Carl Edwards' favorite chassis, just the way he drove. So this is where I get so bent out of shape that these guys don't get moved up, because we've seen Hurst have a couple of shots. We've seen Heim have a couple of shots. Heim has clearly looked better. Heim has clearly performed better. So while money makes everything go in racing, it gets real frustrating when you see these guys that you know can succeed and they're not getting the opportunity. So this is why I've been pushing the whole Heim time thing. I mean, the guy has absolutely dominated. I don't care if he has a championship or not in the Truck Series. For 3 years, he has dominated. He has whooped up on the Truck Series. And quite frankly, it's not like Kyle Busch has hopped in that Spire truck and whooped up on everybody. It's not like Kyle Larson has hopped in one of these Spire trucks and whooped up on everybody. So, you know, Larson, if you want to do this, which, you know, I'm a Larson guy. You want to do this? Go to the Truck Series. Go hop in a Spire truck and let's see you dance with Corey Heim. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's always entertaining because we know Heim is that good. We know
he is, man.
He's so good that he really should be in a Cup car right now. That's how good he is.
I firmly believe that, man. And hat tip to him for his attitude. You don't hear him about it. You don't hear him crying about it. He has done nothing. In fact, you are barely hearing anything from him, and he's just going out and dominating the Truck Series again. I mean, come on.
I mean, he's winning. Winning makes you feel good. So
I suppose. I thought about that. I was like, in all fairness, if I knew I was getting paid to drive a truck and I'm not being rushed up to the Cup Series and I'm not worrying about filling shoes and failing, is it really that bad of a gig? Because I don't have to go to 38 weekends a year to race. I get to do my 20-some with the trucks and a handful of other ones. So I have a little bit lesser of a load to bear, right? And I'm winning. I'm clear. I don't have to say a word because my words are left on the track every time I take a checkered flag.
Exactly. And he gets his few opportunities here and there riding with Sam Hunt in the Xfinity Series too.
Right.
So.
And makes that car look better than anyone else does. We never push him because we know the equipment's muh, but he's a top 15 guy in muh equipment, I know. Rocco, you love Corey Heim. I know, buddy.
Rocco wants it to be Heim time every time.
He does. He's a big fan of Heim time.
Yeah, there we go. But getting into some of the other drivers, though, I have on my list Daniel Suarez. So a lot of the things that I said with Ross Chastain earlier also do apply to Daniel Suarez being a part of the same team at Trackhouse overall. And Suarez, he's for a couple of races this year, particularly on the 1.5 miles, not qualified too well, only in order to get himself into the top 20 or top 15 and finish there. Maybe even sneak into the top 10. And that even includes when he was the runner-up at Vegas earlier in the year, too. So for the price point,
the Suarez call.
Yeah, for the salary that he's at, I think it's worth in order to roster Suarez. He regularly also finishes around the top 15 at this track as well, too. So there you go.
I'm not on Suarez, but I do like the call. I did consider him. The pricing is so low on some of these other guys. It's so hard to ignore.
Yes. So I technically have 2 other guys here, but that's just because I've split them up between whether you're playing on DraftKings or FanDuel. The DraftKings call is a guy on your list that you're also excited about. And we said a few weeks ago, put some respect on his name, and that's Ty Dillon. And he's 5,100 once again for another race. So he is dirt cheap. And he's able to deliver results of positive place differential. And really, you're going to likely get a top 20 run out of it, especially considering how well Kaulig Racing has been running overall this year with both him and AJ Allmendinger.
I totally agree. I'm with you on Dillon. And it has impressed me what he's done with that team. Because like we've talked about a few times, you look up and you're like, Ty Dillon's the 10th? Ty Dillon's inside the top 15? Like we're talking more about Ty Dillon than Austin Dillon on a regular basis, and he's constantly priced down. So I'm with you there. I really like your next call, though, because I'm not going to lie. I didn't have it, and you know how I feel about this guy, so I went and looked up some stuff. Yeah, I get it. So go ahead and lay it on us here.
So the other one I have, which is a call that I aim for FanDuel particularly, but also works for DraftKings, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So last 6 races, he has 3 top 20 finishes. They were all in the May race particularly. And guess what? It's another May, Kansas race. So yeah. This is a race where he can do pretty well. He has 4 finishes with positive place differential in the last 6 Kansas races. But really, you look towards the thing is, Stenhouse has been doing very, very well this season, and not enough people are giving him credit. Because you know what? You look towards the point standings right now. If the playoffs started today, Stenhouse would be the last guy in on points.
And nobody sees that coming. For a guy that's called Ricky Stenhouse, you would infer that there's no way he would ever collect enough points through the season to do that. Honestly, he's had place differentials about everywhere he's gone, as you pointed out. Like, I already knew that. Well, then I went and looked at some of the finishes and the runs over, like, especially if you look at the stage breaks, right? And all of a sudden you happen to see that 47 in there from time to time. I did. I saw that. I was like, man, I hit, and he is priced so low. Like, he could be Ricky Stenhouse of 2 years ago, and he's still a viable option at his price point. So I'm with you. And I'm a fan of Ricky. Like, I've met him personally. He helped us get the go-karts working that we had wrecked. So, I mean, I'm glad. I'm here to see it. I do want to throw out one other name, Sean. I'd consider Jesse Love. The price point is low enough, depending on where he qualifies. I like Heim more. I think Heim's in better equipment, even though it's the 4th car. But I'd consider Jesse Love. I love Love. What can I say?
Yeah, you're loving the love.
I love Love.
I also
Who doesn't love Love?
Yeah, I mean, Jesse is somebody I can consider if he qualifies low enough for sure, too. I think there's definitely an argument to be made that he can be playable. But I do want to also get back to Stenhouse because I do have a little more to say about it, too. First of all, he's not finished lower than 25th this entire season in the Cup Series. 25th is his lowest finished all year. He finished 6th in last week's race at Texas after starting in the 30s. That says a lot right there, too. And then on top of it all, the reason why I say that you should have him in FanDuel, did you even see his price, Rich? It is criminal.
It's free. If they offered free, that's about where it was at. It was really, really low, dude.
$3,000. $3,000. You know, that makes him the 5th cheapest driver on FanDuel the roster, and he's even cheaper than Ty Dillon on there.
Oh my Lord. Talk about disrespectful. Ricky, I feel for you, bro. I don't know what to tell you, man.
This is a driver that right now, if we're just going based off of regular season points and not even factored the playoff aspects into it, he's 15th. 15th. Why is he that low on FanDuel? Why?
Dude, I'm telling you, some of these guys just get emotional when they set these lines. I truly believe that. I truly believe that.
I think the people at FanDuel have no idea what they're doing with this one. I think this is one of the most outrageous price salary lines that they've ever put for a driver that I've seen in DFS in the whole time I've been a DFS player. I
agree, man. I think I've seen someone at 2,400 I wanted to use once, but I mean, when you get down to 3,000, you are, like I said, it's borderline free because you more or less can put them in your lineup and basically build whatever lineup you want. They're so cheap that you can get away with top loading it at that level.
Seriously, I just had to get that out of my system, Rich, because I think that is the most ridiculous thing I've seen all year.
I don't think you're wrong. Sean. So, well, why don't you hit us with your core 4 picks? What do you say?
Yeah, let's get right to it here. So, Kyle Larson at 11,000 on DraftKings, 14,000 on FanDuel. Alex Bowman, yes, he's in the core. He's 7,800 on DraftKings and 8,500 on FanDuel. Ryan Preece at 7,100 on DraftKings, 5,800 on FanDuel. And then I have Daniel Suarez in my DraftKings core in particular. He's at 6,800. I love the price right there, particularly compared to FanDuel. But for FanDuel, I mean, it's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in that last spot. I mean, come on now. Who else can it be?
I'm not far off. Give me Hamlin, give me Bubba, give me Ricky Stenhouse, and give me Kyle Larson. If you do that, you have about $7,100 left over for the other 2 drivers. To me, that's top loaded enough with Larson and Hamlin. Those are the dominators I want to chase. Bubba and Ricky. Bubba, we've already talked about him. And like I said, I went back and looked in the place differentials and all that. Ricky screams smart value. And leaving you at 7,000, you could go ahead and get another punt option, say the Ty Dillon, or you wanted to get real cheap with, who was it? It was 5,100. I think I had him listed there.
5,100 is Ty Dillon. Ty
Dillon. So you could throw like Ty Dillon there at 5,100, and now all of a sudden you can use a $9,000 driver. So that's how I would be splitting it up. I'm probably building more around Larson Hamlin unless we see something different at qualifying or I got some sort of panic because I hear something happening at Joe Gibbs with their motors. But you got a lot of options going that way. I kind of like the Alex Bowman move too. That's a good way to save some money from Bubba because Bubba is priced up. So that's something to keep in mind. We're not far off on our bets this week there, Sean.
Yeah, let's get into the betting core 4s over here. So I have Kyle Larson at plus 400, Denny Hamlin at plus 800, Christopher Bell at plus 1,100, and then kind of a little bit of a longer shot call here, but I think this could work. Alex Bowman at 25-1 right here. So hit us with yours.
I actually like Hamlin over Larson at the 8-1 odds. But Hamlin 8-1, Larson 4-1, Bell 11-1. Like I said, we were right on top of each other. And maybe like we said at the top of the show, bet on Bell, but don't use Bell in the DFS. Pivot down to a cheaper option in Chastain. And then my longer shot, and it wasn't planning to be a longer shot, but if they're going to give us 22-1, I'm taking some love at Bubba Wallace, man.
I almost thought about Bubba Wallace in the same slot that I put Alex Bowman in. I was really between those 2 guys right there because I think if you want to go like a below 2,000, I think those are the top 2 guys to bet on to win. So there you go.
I'll be up front. I didn't have any bets this week. I got real salty after last week. I felt like the Ty Gibbs call was smart. I mean, we saw the line move from plus 115 to minus 150. So I felt like our recommendation was spot on, Sean. I think that's fair, even though it didn't work out. But some of the other stuff, I felt like I got a little aggressive, and Texas was not the place to be aggressive, as we saw. So I'm hitting the pause button here. I don't have any other bets right now. I will have them by Sunday for sure. So why don't you go through yours, Sean? I just wanted to let people know I'm not trying to be lazy. I wanted to regroup because I'm still a little bit salty about last week.
Fair enough. So going through my other bets that I have here, because I have a couple lined up this week. I got Alex Bowman top 10 at plus 100. I mean, this was a no-brainer.
I like it.
Seriously.
I like it.
Lock this in now while you can, because that is
It'll go
not going to
money.
be plus odds by the time qualifying rolls around. So
it'll be negative.
I got a few head-to-head bets here. I have Chris Buescher versus Kyle Busch. Chris Buescher at minus 125. I'm taking Christopher Bell versus Denny Hamlin. I'm taking Bell at plus 105 just because it's plus odds, and I think the matchup is close enough where I think Bell could take it if the circumstances are good. And then I have Ross Chastain versus Tyler Reddick. I'm taking Chastain at plus 125. Plus odds on a head-to-head bet. And Reddick, even though he's been fast at this track, he doesn't always have the best track record of finishing well at this track, particularly, too. So I think
still call this
could have a leg in that regard.
I still say that's a big balls bet. I like it, Sean. That's a sane one with your chest there.
Yeah, I think especially because we've seen it this year. Red can have speed at races, but he doesn't always finish them in a top position. So he's been a little mixed. Chastain's been more consistent. I'm going with Chastain there, and it's also plus odds, so worth the shot. Now, getting into the last two that I have here, these are two group winner bets. Group A winner, that's between Larson, Blaney, Byron, and Reddick. Give me Kyle Larson at plus 150. And Group D winner, that's between Briscoe, Bowman, Gibbs, and Barry. Give me Alex Bowman at plus 250. And that's where I'm putting a pin on it, Rich.
Perfect. Like I said, I will have some, and folks, I may have some in Discord. Sean's going to be covering the overview article this week. This was his choice, what he wanted to do, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to kick work to Sean with the lighter load with the Xfinity. So Sean's going to be doing that. So since he's going to be doing that, I probably will be finding myself in the betting room posting some bets, because since you're going to be doing that, I'm going to be doing the same research I always do. But since I'm not going to be writing it, I might as well do some digging and get some bets in. So my goal is to have some bets up about the time this podcast drops. So we won't have them necessarily listed here, but I will have a couple of bets for you. I want to figure it out. Like, I don't like making recommendations when I'm on tilt. I don't like making recommendations when I'm salty. I know we got to go with the ebb and flow, but if I can't kind of feel it with my gut and my head, I don't want to push it out there because I don't feel like it's a successful way to chase money. So I'll have something for you there. Sean, you're going to hit the overview. We'll have the cheat sheets as usual. There won't be a cup article this week, though. So folks, heads up on that. We will have
there
notes.
Just won't be time for me in order to do one this week, and I got to adjust my schedule. So I got other stuff coming up here.
And with the truck schedule the way it is, and then Mother's Day, this just is not working well for any of us on timing. So we apologize, but the good
Mark
news
will be there with the cup cheat sheet though for
Yes.
those looking for DFS, and he will be hanging around. So
and I will be hanging around. So I'll be there for questions. I'll be tuning into Mark's cheat sheet because I love his ownership stuff. So I'll be more than happy to discuss, and so will Mark. So we'll be around. Just giving you kind of the heads up on a little bit of changes for this week. Outside of that, hey, please do us a favor. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and like. That'll do us a big favor. I know we only have like 10 people over there that watch this, but if you want to hit like and subscribe, that would be awesome. Really,
and also share it out too.
Yeah, feel free to share. FantasyGuru.com. Click the subscribe button in the top right corner. If you don't see a package that's for you, please reach out to support@FantasyGuru.com. All seriousness, tell them what you're looking for. Tell them your price point. Tell them if you want monthly, annual, what you can do, what you can't do. They will hook you up with the best possible plan for you. We aim to please. And I challenge anyone, we have more content on that website than any of the fantasy sites out there. Honestly, I mean, we cover literally all the sports, esports, golf, all of it. It's all there. We all have Discord channels to discuss in, so please check that out. Do us all a favor. Sean, do you have any closing thoughts before I take us home?
Well, hopefully everybody out there has a nice Mother's Day this weekend and be able to watch some great and awesome racing at Kansas from the trucks and the Cup Series. So enjoy it. Spend some time with your loved ones. And, well, we're out of here, and good luck this week.
On behalf of everyone at the Elite Plus Network and FantasyGuru.com, Sean Engel, you can find on X at SeanE247. Remember, that's SEAN. Please don't follow Rich Told You So NASCAR Maletto on Twitter. You can find me around, but you don't want to follow me. Trust me. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Be sure to make sure you send a loving note to your mom, and wish her a happy Mother's Day. And with that, till next time, peace.